This is Mitch, and welcome to the 1000houses.com podcast. I'm here with Lior Rozhansky, and he's in Boston, and he's going to talk to us about how we can buy multifamilies and how we size them up and how to get into the multifamily space starting from zero. So before we do that, let's pay homage to our sponsor, taxfreefuture.com. If you don't have a tax-deferred or tax-free account in which to grow your finances or to grow your retirement, man, you are missing a huge, huge tool in your tool belt. Please check out taxfreefuture.com. Check out the 37 little video vignettes there. And my favorite ones are the ones that show you how to open your account with just a little bit of money and then use that little bit of money to make a whole bunch of money in that account. I did it myself. I know it works. So check it out, taxfreefuture.com. All right, Lior, we paid the bills. How are you today?
I'm good, Mitch. Thanks for having me on here. Excited to be here.
Yeah. So, how old are you? May I ask?
I actually just turned 27 yesterday.
You young guys piss me off. I mean, damn, I was 34 years old before I found my butt with both hands. I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
I consider myself old, so don't worry.
You consider yourself old? Yeah. Well, just for the record, since I asked you, I'm about to turn 60, so I don't want to hear none of your I'm old stuff. Okay. So good for you, man. Good for you. You started off early. You got a college degree. You graduated from high school. You graduated from high school, and then what happened?
Yes. So I graduated high school. I ended up going to college locally in Boston, Brandeis University. I was destined to be a doctor. I was on a pre-med track, even applied to med schools after college. But, I found the year after college, I kind of started reading a little bit about real estate, and the med school track got derailed very, very quickly to the dismay of my parents.
Well, yeah, I bet it was, and I've heard this story before, and I've participated in this story before. One of my interns came to work for me for $10 an hour because he had this dream. He just graduated from Trinity University in San Antonio, which is a very expensive school. And his parents were not happy. He was working for me for $10 an hour, just really as a little stipend so he could buy gas and have a hamburger every now and then while he learned. And he was a multi-millionaire. He's, probably 33 or 34 or 35 now, but man, his parents were upset. Then I hear, a lot of doctors are my investors. I have like $26 million out on the streets right now from private people. And if you ever want to know about that, it's in the Private Money Changes Everything course over there at 1000houses.com, where I talk to people about how I'm able to raise that kind of money and why. But I have a lot of doctors, and sometimes you can just see the frustration on their face because they got to go in and do those operations or perform every day or they don't get paid. And they see my Facebook and me traveling around or just doing what I do. And they're really, a lot of them, obviously blatantly envious. It's hard to take off when you're the person who has to commit the act that drives the paycheck, kind of hard to systematize. All right, I'm a brain surgeon, but I'm going to sub this out to this guy. Not going to work really that good,
Right. I mean, it's just time for money, right? That's essentially, it's a very good time for money trade-off, especially for doctors. They get paid handsomely for it. But yeah, if you don't work, then the paycheck isn't coming in. And that's what I realized on my first deal, right? I bought my first property. Was a multifamily, and I started getting income passively, and just it kind of blows your mind the first time that monthly income hits your account without you really doing much.
Well, I like to say, you're going to spend some time or a lot of time or an absorbent amount of time getting it set up and structured and in place, and then you can walk away from it, and it's like a water well. It just keeps producing, it just keeps producing. It took a while to drill that hole, to get down there, to put the pipe and set up the mechanics of it and have a pump and some pressure and all that jazz. But after it's done, you have water for a long, long, long time, if not forever, So
Yeah, exactly. And let's be honest. I mean, if you're going to be a high paid professional like a doctor or whatever it is, you're going to put those hours in anyway through med school, residency anyway. So there's a trade off one way or the other. The question is, what's going to build you a true legacy in the system that can continue to make you wealthy? So.
Okay, so what was the first light bulb? I mean, you didn't just wake up one morning and say, I'm going to go find a house. Something happened. It kind of drove you. You had a friend or someone told you, or you watched an infomercial. What was it?
Yeah, I don't have any family in real estate, nothing to do with real estate at all. I actually had a couple of friends talk about buying a house while I was applying for med school, and I thought they were crazy off their butts. I told them that to their faces. But, I started doing research like a lot of people do in that age. And I just realized that if I was going to invest in the stock market, I didn't think I was going to be that next genius who would be able to crack the code on, making millions in the equities market. So the next best thing that seemed on the paper was somehow real estate. And again, even though it was incredibly intimidating, right? I mean, I had zero background, knew absolutely nothing about real estate. The concept behind it, the numbers seemed to make sense. And that's why I just started exploring that path. And that's why I've been on that path since. The numbers are very rational and logical.
Okay, so tell us about your first deal.
Yeah, so that first deal, so again, I was 20, at the time I was 23, just turned 23, I saved up a couple of dollars for my job after college. So the way I decided to attack it was go through an owner-occupant loan. I knew I wanted to do multifamily because I knew I could get better cash flows than a condo or single family. So I lined up an FHA loan, which allowed me to put down 3.5% on my first deal. Boston's obviously one of the most expensive markets in the country. So every percent that you can save on the down payment is a good chunk of money here. So I was able to squeeze in that 3.5% and jump into my first deal.
How do you qualify for this loan? You're a young person. What you had a good enough job to qualify?
Yeah, I did. You definitely, obviously, you definitely need some sort of job, income, whatever, right? You can't just like walk into a bank and ask for it.
What were you doing?
So at the time, that was my in-between transition time between college and med school. I ended up taking a job as management consulting, because I took a couple of business courses in college. It was a little bit of an interest, so management consulting was kind of an interesting job for me. It did pay pretty well, so I was able to qualify for a good size loan. And that's how I was able to leverage that into getting into my first deal.
How many units was it?
So it was a 3-unit. It was a 3-unit property.
All right. What was the price?
So I bought that property for $520,000. Today that property's worth about $750, and throws off about $1,500 per month in cash flow.
Okay, cool. So that's the magical thing, right? If you take care of these places and keep them running, you look up and the appreciation on $520,000 is a lot more than the appreciation on $50,000.
Yeah, the numbers here are definitely a lot bigger, but it's right. I mean, obviously it takes a lot more to get into these deals, but you're right. The depreciation schedules are better here. Cash flows can be quite juicy here as well. But yeah, you're able. That's probably the best deal I've ever done. My first deal.
Sometimes that's how it works, right? I feel sorry for some of these people that make a crap load of money on their first deal. I'm like, oh no, they think that every deal is going to be like that, and they just got lucky.
Trust me, my next 2 deals were absolute disaster. So I quickly learned. I quickly learned that you're going to have a good balance of good and bad deals.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. So your next 2 deals are disasters. I like to talk about the downside, some or even 50-50, right? I don't want to talk about the upside 100% of the time and not mention anything, because that's what my book, My Life in 1,000 Houses, Failing Forward to Financial Freedom, was about. What happens after the Get Rich Quick seminar. You go there and they show you boats and cars and big checks and, pretty girls and all this stuff. And then they never tell you the downside of anything. And then you go out there to do what they told you to do, and you start finding out all this stuff that those jerks didn't tell you, you know. And so I was kind of venting in this book, you know, about what they, you know, what they didn't tell me at the seminar. So tell us how your two not so great deals went after that first one.
Oh, it's what you just said is very real. It can be very sexy up front, but once you get into the weeds of it, it can kick your butt quite a bit. Yeah. So so basically my thought process at the time, I bought this property. I was really starting to consider a career in real estate because I mean, you know, your first deal went so smoothly well. Why not?
Yeah. At this pace, I'll be a millionaire in a couple of weeks, you know?
Exactly. So the next two deals I essentially jumped into were condo development deals. So I ended up, you know, did a lot of networking and got connected with a local developer. You know, I found him the deals that made sense. And with that, he was, you know, I essentially became a partner in that deal and became one of the main operators. And those two deals, man, they really kicked my butt. I mean, I essentially became not only the operating partner, but I was essentially the GC, you know, because we subbed everything out. You know, so I was running the show with absolutely zero construction experience. These contractors were talking to me, and all I could do was put up a blank face. You know, I literally had no idea what we were. Half the time, I really had to fake it till I make it kind of thing. But you know, we also took on hard money debt at this point. Because those were my first two deals. So we were on very expensive interest rates, and we had a ton of construction delays. I mean, both deals were supposed to take us a maximum of a year. They ended up taking us between 18 to 24 months. And as you can imagine, you know, the loan sizes here were quite significant. I mean, these were $1 million loans on 12, 13% interest rates. So those numbers added up very quickly. So between the interest, between the construction delays that we had, between the fact that I really did not know anything about construction at that point, it was really a perfect storm for me to really get my butt handed to me between those two deals.
Well, you're not afraid, you know. Hats off to you on that. You just walked right into the fire, right? You picked like one of the most difficult things and one of the most difficult places to do. Everyone underestimates the red tape of a city municipality. You know, we bought the office next to our office. We're getting ready to remodel it. It's about it's not even a big job. It's 5,000 square foot commercial job, although it needs everything in the world. The building's very old. One story, you know, we figured we'd be in and out in a year, you know, pretty much. It's about going on 2 years, and we're about to get the permit. You know what I mean? Last time they kicked our permit back out, we said, what in the world could possibly, what's the matter now? I mean, what could possibly you need now after months and months of kicking this set of plans back and forth? They said I needed a bicycle rack. I didn't have a bicycle rack for someone to park their bicycle. I was like, Jesus. You know, could you just say, hey, we're going to go ahead and approve it before you get your final. Just add a bicycle rack in there. Here you go. No, but I got to redo it and send it back in because I don't have that bicycle rack in there.
Why would it be rational, right? It shouldn't be.
Why does anyone need a bicycle rack for anything? I mean, if you have a bicycle, that's your problem. I don't know. Why is it my problem that you have a bicycle?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I dealt with the same thing. I mean, honestly, before I went to these projects, I kind of admit this once in a while. I don't love to. I didn't even really know what a permit was, right? I thought we just go in, hire some guys, they do the work. And, you know, when I found out that we had to get architectural plans, we had to get permits and everything, it kind of started sinking in like, oh, wow, this is a completely different process than I could have ever imagined up front.
Oh, wow. That would be a shocker, right?
Yep.
Yeah. The plans alone for a little 5,000, getting the architect and get someone to walk it to the city. Cause I'm so glad we didn't try to do that ourselves, you know, because I would never know how to deal with these people, or they wouldn't like how I wanted to deal with them. That's for sure. So we hired this first. It was $45,000 just for the architectural plans. You know, by the time they finished the electric and the plumbing and the sprinkler system and and on and on and on. So it pays to get a pro sometime. So did you lose a lot of money on that project, or did you break even?
One of them, we somehow were able to squeeze out a very, very small profit, almost negligible. The second one, we did lose a little bit of money. But the way I consider that, that's kind of the price I paid for my MBA in construction management and learning real estate. It was lesson that I still take to heart today. So
there's no free education. You're either gonna hire someone to coach you through that process, whatever process that is, or the street's going to teach you a couple of lessons, and it's going to charge the hell out of you. And
exactly.
You would have been a lot better off to even talk to a coach about this project before you started, someone who'd already built a bunch of condos or whatever, because then you would not walked in you wouldn't have committed before it was too late. Once you committed, it's like, well, I got to go do it now. I got all this money on the line. You might have decided.
And I thought I could outsmart the system a little bit because I did partner with a more experienced developer. But even that goes to show you that even when you think everything is aligned on your end, you still got to stay extremely sharp, because just because you have you may have experience on your side, whether it's you or a partner, things can still very, very quickly and very easily turn south. So it's crucial, regardless, that you stay sharp and you take everything as an educational process. So
is this the same partner you have now, or do you have a partner now?
No, so yeah, we kind of cut that cord with that partnership. I do have for various reasons, but yeah, today I do have a different operating partner. We basically, right after those projects, I kind of swore off flipping and condo developments and really just decided to stick to the buy and hold strategy, since that's really my first deal was the buy and hold that worked so well.
Oh, one of the lessons learned. Pick one thing, stick with it till you're great at it. Just one thing. Just one thing.
One strategy, to take one thing that you can dominate and just do that over and over again. You don't need to do that.
And when you can put that business on and off like a pair of pants, then maybe you say, what's a second strategy that fits well with this first one? But only after you have mastered the first strategy. And
exactly. And we still kind of use that principle today, because after those deals, we ended up doing a number of projects that were all existing buildings, existing value add multifamily deals. They were all deals that were in a little bit of distress, whether they needed some work or they had low rents paid by tenants, and we came in and stabilized the building. So we ended up doing a number of projects like that. And now we're finally starting to kind of go into the next branch of business. And now we're starting to get into the new construction aspect of the business, but still from a rental perspective, but kind of the next evolution in our business. So absolutely stick to one thing that you're good at. And once you become really good at it, then you can kind of slowly start branching off into the different avenues.
Okay, so here's an interesting question. How are you and your current business partner, different?
That's a great question, actually. We both bring, I think, in two very different sets of skills. After that whole construction management project that I did with the condos, I figured out that world pretty quickly, and I know that world, but I also realized that I really just don't like doing it. I really don't like being, the guy that has to manage all the contractors every single day, answer all their questions and all that. It's just not my favorite thing to do. Whereas my partner is really, really good at construction management, dealing with the contractors, dealing with all the vendors, et cetera. So that's kind of his forte and that's what he brings to the table. And in addition to that, he has more experience in the commercial lending world. What I bring to the table is the acquisition side. So I'm very good at the underwriting aspect. I do a lot of our deal analysis. I do a lot of our marketing and deal finding. And then once we stabilize the properties, I'll also do a lot of the tenant management. I'll have, I've got a couple of contractors that I work with that can help us with regular maintenance stuff. So we do both bring in kind of a unique set of skills that allows us to kind of really work well together.
Okay, how many doors are y'all pushing these days? How many doors do y'all collect on these days?
Yeah, so I own right now, between everything I own, I've got 28 units, which is a collective value of about $9 million in real estate. And we've got two new construction projects that are going to be kicking off within the next few months as well.
Okay, so you're giving away a free property evaluator for multifamily and value add multifamily properties. So I want everyone to go to 1000houses.com/Lior, Lior, and in honor of our guests, and go check it out. It's little underwriting guidelines on how you size up good multifamily property and decide whether you want to pull the trigger or what kind of offer you want to make, and check it out. And then there's got 2 courses that he can offer, and you'll find these in the show notes also at 1000houses.com/Lior, Lior. A course on how to successfully buy and manage your first multifamily deal, and a shorter course on how to underwrite a multifamily value add deal. So check out those 2 courses. If you're interested, there'll be more than enough information over there to get you to Lior and his organization. Let's talk about property management. Do you do it yourself or you sub it out?
Yeah, that's a great question. So as of right now, we do all of our management ourselves. Now that we're kind of starting to push a decent amount of unit count here, that's one of the things on my radar for the next couple of months as well, is to start interviewing professional property management. Just because I'm starting to realize, when you spend a couple of hours every single day dealing with pretty much non-income producing activities, right? Like dealing with small maintenance requests or small issues here and there. And it's,
let me just shortcut this conversation for you. Talking to tenants sucks. How's that?
That's a great way of saying it. There you go.
Yeah. The sooner you can get out of that position and pay someone. Here's the thing. I got this cord hanging out here. When it's your money and it's your project and you're like this, obviously a higher level business person than most of the people that you're dealing with as a tenant, because they wouldn't be tenants if they were really sophisticated. Typically, not all the time, but and it's your money, and it's hard to take the emotion out of that. Like, you need to come fix a hole in the wall. Well, there wasn't a hole in the wall when I gave it to you. How'd the hole in the wall get there? Well, I put my fist to it. Really, in my house, the one that I built with my money. That gets. I have to remove myself from that position, because I just as soon go over there and beat him with a baseball bat. How about this? How about I just beat the hell out of you with this bat? So I had to get someone in between, because when they call that lady, she doesn't care. It wasn't her wall. It's not her money. She says, okay, well, you're going to have a little penalty for this, but, we're going to come over and have someone fix it. And I'm raging mad. I want to go over there and strangle somebody. I realized right off the bat that if someone didn't get between me and my payers, I was going to probably go to jail, so.
It's frustrating. Yeah. I mean, it's like you said, it's kind of it's a frustrating activity, because you're right. Like, especially if it's properties that you've renovated or built, there's always going to be a little bit of motion. And again, for me, like you said, right, once you kind of reach a certain level in business, those sorts of, even if you can handle the emotions and even if you can kind of separate it, you're better off doing something else, whether it's acquisitions, finding another deal, whatever, right? I mean,
yeah, you didn't make your money dealing with tenant issues. You made your money finding deals,
Correct. Exactly.
So I'm going to assume that you still like that part. I don't know anyone who's found a lot of deals that doesn't like it. We all become kind of what we call deal junkies. We're hooked on it.
Deal addicts. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I finally got to the point where I don't care if I ever physically myself go buy another house or sell another house. I don't care anymore. The new challenge for me was how do I get that happening, so that it happens in the background and I don't have to do anything about it. That was the new challenge for me. So I haven't seen the last 400 houses I bought in my town, and I haven't seen the last 400 people that bought my houses, and I accomplished exactly what I wanted to do. My role for my business, really, and what I love to do these days at my age, at the speed at which I want to run, is I like to find the private money lenders, which requires a lot of socializing. You know what I mean? Used to be before COVID, basketball games, baseball games, football games, dinners, whatever is going on. The charity event for the museum or whatever, that's where I was, because that's where the money was and that's where the people wanted to go that I was entertaining, or who had lent me money already, and it was time for me to do them a solid and take them to the game on, you know what I mean, front row.
Yeah, and those are good activities to do, right? And I spend a lot of time on that as well, right? I mean, because we've always got deals either under contract or in pipeline, so it's critical for us to be talking to private money investors, so that we have that cash lined up when our next deal is ready to be funded. So even an activity like that, whether it's raising the private money, finding the actual deal, talking to new commercial lenders, right? I mean, you always want to expand. For us, we always want to keep expanding our database of potential local banks that can finance our projects. All of those aspects of the business, I would say, are probably more crucial to growth than, say, necessarily property management.
Yeah, property management, just what I said, it's just to manage what's already there. You got to get it up and going and set some kind of standard for that place, you know, and then they're going to manage that standard. But talk to me about stabilizing. You buy places that already have tenants in it, and then you got to get rid of a bunch, and then you got to clean it up and get your brand of tenants in. Tell me about that process.
Yeah, so we bought different types of buildings. If we buy, for example, a vacant multifamily, we'll just go in, do all the renovation work up front and lease it out. So that's probably a little bit more straightforward. We have bought buildings before where they are already tenanted. You know, those are always a little trickier because you're right. I mean, you got to figure out whether you're going to be doing evictions, whether you can get away with rent increases. So it's a lot more of a trickier game, and you really have to find the balance there. So, and I've done both, right? So one of the first bigger portfolios we bought a 6-unit building that was all tenanted out with well below market rents. And we had to go through 2 evictions over there. And in Massachusetts, it's a very, very tough eviction process. Those lasted I think it was 8 or 9 months, you know, and they were grueling. So, you know, we definitely had those battles. One of the most recent acquisitions I bought a 4-unit building where we didn't actually have to do evictions. I thought we would, but they were actually all Section 8 tenants there. And we were actually able to go directly to Section 8 and renegotiate the leases with them without doing any upfront work. And that actually worked out fantastically. Within half a year, we were able to get 3 of the 4 units to market rent with just direct negotiations with Section 8.
Well, and then what's some of the toughest parts about this business? Or what's a tough day?
Yeah, you know, I mean, I'd say that first scenario where we're stabilizing, we're in the process of stabilizing. That's always a little tough, right? Especially if you're dealing with tougher tenants that either make access trickier, make contractor access trickier, or maybe they don't necessarily want to be talking to you. You know, and especially with everything going on now with coronavirus. There's definitely a couple of units we have that just make our life a little bit tougher than it should be. So that's always a little tricky. If we're in the process of doing any sort of major renovations, we're obviously going to be, like I said, we're going to be starting some ground up soon. That's going to be obviously on our heads every single day, right? Making sure all the logistics are moving forward. So, you know, it's always a balance between making sure your projects are moving along nicely, making sure if you're stabilizing any units that everything with the tenants is going as smooth as it possibly can. So a lot of different kind of things to juggle.
All right, my friend, I'm going to probably wrap it up here. Let's make sure everyone has that link to get their free property evaluator for multifamily. Just go to 1000houses.com/Lior, Lior. You guys want to learn more about the courses, how to successfully buy and manage your first multifamily deal, or how to underwrite a multifamily value add deal, just go there to that link, 1000houses.com/Lior, and check it out. There'll also be all kinds of information that'll lead you to Lior if you want to talk to him in person or talk to his organization. I'm sure they'll have whatever you need over there to hook up. Anything you want to say to the audience before we wrap up here, Lior?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer in multifamily myself. So if you're not in the multifamily space, or you want to break into it, I think it's, I think the opportunity is still going to be there. I think apartments are going to be here for the foreseeable future. So if you're not in that game, learn how to get into that game, whether you go through the owner occupant path or you go through kind of our path that we do, both me and you, Mitch, where we raise private money and structure deals that way. Regardless of how you decide to do it, get educated and then pull the trigger. You're going to mess up. You're going to get your butt kicked almost for sure. But once you're in the weeds and you're really committed, you'll figure out a way to pull through.
Good advice. Good advice. All right. I'd like to thank everyone out there for taking the time to get you some Lior Rozhansky. And please check out taxfreefuture.com. If you do not have a tax-free or tax-deferred account in which to grow your finances, your retirement, man, you're missing a big tool in your tool belt. Check it out, please. Taxfreefuture.com. We're out of here.
Thanks for having me.